Miguel Santos lived in the lively district of Lahug in Cebu City, where the scent of street-side barbecue filled the air every evening and the sound of vendors, tricycles, and children laughing blended into a familiar neighborhood symphony. But above all this noise was a place that felt like another world, his small rooftop, the one spot where he could breathe, dream, and sing without fear. The rooftop wasn't special to anyone else. The cement was cracked, the walls were stained by years of rain, and a rusty clothesline stretched across one corner. An old plastic chair sat near the edge, along with a broken water container that Miguel often used as a small table. But to him, that rooftop was his stage, his secret home of courage. The place where he wasn't shy, where no one could judge him, where his voice could rise as high as the stars that watched silently above Cebu. Every night after dinner, Miguel climbed the old metal ladder that groaned under his weight. When he reached the top, the cool evening breeze embraced him, carrying the scent of the ocean mixed with the faint smell of charcoal grills from the streets below. The city lights sparkled like distant fireflies, and the sky above was sprinkled with stars, giving him the feeling that he wasn't alone. He pulled out his small Bluetooth speaker, one of his most valued possessions, and placed it gently on the chair. He opened his phone and selected the same song he always started with, Elvis Presley's "Can't Help Falling in Love." The first notes echoed softly across the rooftop, blending with the night. Miguel closed his eyes. Then he sang. His voice carried a gentle warmth, a rich tone that felt both classic and fresh. It had a slight rasp, the kind that made every word feel emotional, as if he were telling a story in every line. Singing Elvis wasn't just mimicry for him, it was like speaking to someone who understood his dreams, his fears, and the quiet hope he carried in his chest. The music let him express everything he couldn't say in real life. At first, no one noticed the mysterious voice drifting through the neighborhood. But after several nights, more people started listening. A mother putting her baby to sleep paused at the window and whispered, "Who is that singing?" Teenagers walking home from basketball practice slowed down, looking up at the rooftops to find the hidden performer. A sorry store owner leaned against her counter during quiet hours, letting the soothing voice accompany her as she counted coins. Miguel didn't know any of this. He thought the night wind swallowed his voice before it could reach anyone. Sometimes he heard soft clapping from somewhere far below, but he always assumed it was something else, a TV, a passing group of friends, or maybe he had imagined it. Tonight, however, something different happened. As Miguel reached the final lines of "Love Me Tender," he heard familiar footsteps on the ladder. He turned and saw his Lolo emerging from the opening, holding a small flashlight and wearing a gentle smile. His Lolo had always known about his rooftop singing, though Miguel had never admitted it. Without saying a word, Lolo handed him an old photo, a black and white picture of Elvis performing on stage. Miguel looked at it carefully, then looked at his grandfather. "You have a gift, hijo," Lolo said quietly. "A rare one. Don't keep it hidden your whole life." Miguel hesitated, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I'm scared, Lo. What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail?" Lolo placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Failure isn't singing in front of people," he said. "Failure is never trying. Your voice deserves to be heard." Miguel looked out at the glowing city, feeling an unfamiliar strength rising inside him. For the first time, the dream he kept locked in his heart felt possible. He imagined a real stage, bright lights, a huge audience, and Simon Cowell sitting at the judge's table, waiting to be surprised. He didn't know it yet, but this rooftop would soon lead him to a stage far bigger than Cebu, one that would change his life forever. The sun had barely risen when Miguel stepped off the bus in Manila, clutching his backpack strap so tightly his knuckles turned white. The long overnight trip from Cebu had left him exhausted, but excitement and nervousness washed away any hint of sleepiness. Manila felt bigger, louder, and faster than anything he'd ever seen, jeepneys rushing past, vendors shouting, skyscrapers towering above him like giants watching a new visitor. He had traveled all this way for one reason: the live auditions for America's Got Talent at the Mall of Asia Arena. His Lolo's words echoed in his mind with every step he took toward the venue: "Your voice deserves to be heard." He repeated the phrase silently, almost like a prayer. The arena entrance was packed. Hundreds of hopeful contestants stood in line, some with guitars, some in glittery outfits, some practicing dance moves, and others muttering lyrics under their breath. Miguel stood quietly among them, wearing simple jeans, a white shirt, and his old sneakers. He felt out of place, like a dreamer who had wandered onto a battlefield. As he waited, he kept wiping his palms against his jeans. His heart pounded louder with every step the line moved forward. He imagined what it would be like to stand in front of Simon Cowell. Would Simon like him? Would he even get through the first verse? When his number was finally called, Miguel took a deep breath and followed the staff backstage. Everything felt surreal: the bright lights, the massive curtains, the distant echo of cheering from the audience. Behind the scenes, he could hear other contestants finishing their acts, some receiving applause, others hearing the dreaded buzzer. A staff member placed a microphone in his hand. "You're up next," she said gently. "Just breathe. You'll do great." He nodded, though his stomach twisted with anxiety. He closed his eyes for a moment, imagining himself back on his rooftop in Cebu. The stars, the wind, the silence, he tried to bring that feeling with him. The stage manager signaled him forward. Miguel stepped into the spotlight. The crowd was huge, thousands of faces, cameras flashing, people whispering. He swallowed hard. The judges' table came into focus: Howie Mandel smiling politely, Heidi Klum waving playfully, Sofia Vergara watching with interest, and Simon Cowell, leaning back, studying him with a blank expression that made Miguel's legs wobble. "What's your name?" Simon asked. Miguel Santos, from Cebu, Philippines, he replied softly. A few audience members cheered when they heard Cebu. Miguel smiled nervously. "What will you be doing for us today?" Simon continued. I'll be singing an Elvis Presley song," Miguel answered. Simon raised a brow, half skeptical, half intrigued. "Elvis? That's a big choice." Miguel nodded, gripping the microphone. "He's my inspiration." A moment of silence passed. Then the music began. The first chords of "Can't Help Falling in Love" filled the arena. But Miguel was no longer on a stage. In his mind, he was on his rooftop again, under the stars, with Cebu beneath him. He took his first breath and began to sing. The audience fell silent instantly. Miguel's voice wasn't loud, but it was full, rich, soulful, and hauntingly beautiful. His tone carried a deep sincerity that made even the farthest rows lean forward. The rasp in his voice gave each lyric a nostalgic warmth, as if Elvis's spirit lived inside him. Simon's expression changed. His eyebrows lowered, his eyes narrowed, and he leaned closer to the table. It was the look audiences knew well, the look he only gave when something truly extraordinary unfolded. Miguel continued, pouring every emotion into the song: the struggles of Cebu life, the nights spent dreaming, the fear, the hope. By the final note, the arena held its breath. Then the entire place erupted. Cheer after cheer, applause shaking the floor, people standing, shouting his name. Miguel froze in disbelief. Simon slowly stood up, clapping with a half-smile that grew wider by the second. "Miguel," he said, "that was absolutely unbelievable." Miguel's heart swelled. This was only the beginning. Miguel stood on the AGT stage, still breathless from the applause that had shaken the arena after his audition song. His heart was pounding so fast it felt like it might burst. The lights above him were blinding, turning the whole world into a shimmering blur of gold and white. He couldn't believe what just happened. People were standing, cheering, shouting his name as if he had already become a star. But everything grew quiet again when Simon Cowell leaned toward his microphone. "Miguel," Simon said, voice steady but emotional, "I didn't expect that." "Not at all." A soft murmur rippled through the audience. Simon continued, "You walked out here like you weren't sure if you belonged. But the moment you sang, you owned this stage." Miguel felt his eyes burn with tears. He lowered his gaze, afraid the emotion would spill over. Heidi Klum leaned forward with a bright smile. "Your voice is beautiful, Miguel. You have such a warm, soulful tone. I felt every single note." Sofia Vergara added, "And you made it your own. It wasn't just Elvis. It was you. Amazing job." Howie Mandel pointed at Miguel with excitement. "I think we're looking at something special here, a singer with heart, humility, and a once-in-a-lifetime voice." The crowd cheered again, shouting encouragement. Miguel tried to speak but only a shaky breath escaped. Thank you so much," he whispered, voice breaking. But Simon wasn't finished. "You know," Simon said, leaning closer, "I've heard many Elvis covers in my life. Most of them sound like impressions. But you sing with soul. With honesty. You made me feel like Elvis himself would stand up and applaud you." Gasps filled the arena. Miguel pressed his hand against his chest, overwhelmed. Tears spilled freely now, but he didn't care. Simon looked at the other judges, then back at Miguel. "And that," he said softly, "deserves something very special." Miguel blinked, confused, until Simon slowly stood up. The audience screamed, already knowing what was coming. Heidi covered her mouth. Sofia clapped excitedly. Miguel froze completely, his whole world shrinking into slow motion. Simon placed both hands on the bright golden buzzer. For one heartbeat, everything went silent. Then he pushed it. The buzzer exploded with light. Music blasted through the arena. Golden confetti shot into the air, swirling and raining down like a storm of shining stars. The crowd erupted into the loudest cheers Miguel had ever heard in his life. It felt like the entire world was celebrating him. Miguel fell to his knees, unable to hold himself up. He covered his face with both hands, crying uncontrollably. All the nights on his rooftop in Cebu, all the fear, all the doubt, everything came crashing together in this single moment of triumph. Stage assistants rushed forward, cheering for him. The judges stood clapping. The camera zoomed in on his tear-streaked face as the confetti covered his hair and shoulders like golden blessings. Simon walked onto the stage, smiling warmly, something he rarely did. He placed a hand on Miguel's back. "You're incredible," he said. "Don't ever doubt that again." Miguel looked up, eyes shining. Thank you, sir. This is my dream." Simon nodded. You earned it. As the confetti continued to fall, Miguel slowly stood, lifting his hands to the sky, letting the golden pieces stick to his skin. He imagined his Lolo watching from Cebu, smiling proudly. He imagined the rooftop where it all began. He imagined every star he used to sing under, and now, he felt like he had become one of them. This was his moment. The world had heard his voice. And his journey was only beginning.